Hello, this is Freedom First with Jeffrey Tucker. Today I would like to talk to you about technology. Technology that is useful, that which is ultimately obsolete, and that which we're very confused about right now and might actually be obsolete in a few years, but we don't know it yet because we sometimes just glom onto the new thing without being critically minded about it. I've been thinking about this a lot because I'm more and more convinced that we're surrounded by technologies that maybe in a few years will be completely gone. And we'll look back and think, why did we think that was a thing? And a number of things that have happened recently made me think of this. A friend of mine was building a house, of all places in Houston, Texas, which you'd think would be the most friendly place to oil and gas, but he could not get the final inspection approved to move in until he put into the garage an EV charger. Now, he doesn't have an EV, but it was required by the code. This must be going on all over the country if it's happening in Houston, under the presumption that we're all going to be driving EVs in the future. But as we know from the market trends, and this is fairly recent, in the last, say, 6 months, even the last several, the market for EVs right now is in fact in free fall. I mean, think about that. It's in free fall. Amazing. So the rental car companies are trying to get rid of them. The resale market is, the bottom has dropped out of it. The cars, as soon as you drive them off the lot, are declined in value by a third. More and more consumers are leaving the cars on the lots. The manufacturers are more and more turning towards hybrids and classic internal combustion cars. They can't sell their EVs. They're redoing all their plans. They're desperately trying to comply with Biden administration regulations, which is trying to force this great reset where we all drive around EVs instead of internal combustion cars that use gas, but it's not working. The consumers are in massive revolt about this. And we can talk about this a little bit later about how this boom and bust came. But another example that is on my mind right now is the Vision Pro. These recently came to market, very recently, to great fanfare. All the media was all about them. Oh, everybody's got to have a pair of the Vision Pros. I admit to you that I have no desire for them. I can imagine certain circumstances under which you would want a Vision Pro if you were an architect and you wanted a virtual reality presentation of your design for your client. I can totally imagine this. If you wanted to tour a home in advance of buying it, but you don't live there and you can't get there before you get there. So you could imagine certain situations. But for typical consumer use, that's another question. What are you going to use it for? For gaming? I mean, I saw one video with a lady shopping with it where she would look at a product and the prices for the product and all local stores would come up in her Vision Pro. And I was thinking, again, do you really want to walk around a grocery store with a big headset on, looking at the prices of things? And there's an element of fanaticism there. And then you've got the gamers. So it's, okay, well, I'll do gaming on those things, but there aren't many games available for them. And quite frankly, it's fun just to do gaming from your regular laptop. I mean, you want to be connected to the external world while looking at something. I mean, that just seems to stand to reason. You don't want to block out the whole external world. So this thing, by the way, costs $3,500, and there's a payment plan. So you can go in and throw it out a few $100 and then pay $250 a month or something like that with interest just to have your Vision Pro virtual reality headset. So the problem is that people have reported, first of all, there's not actually much use for the thing, but beyond that, it's deeply uncomfortable. It's enormously heavy, so you get neck ache and that sort of thing. It gives you a headache, probably because you're not connected to the external world. You're surrounded by this virtual reality, and it's something that doesn't fit with us biologically. It gives you pounding headaches. And then, after just a little bit of use, your eyes start to dry out, like your eyes cannot hold up under the eye strain. So people bought these things, got them home and tried them out, and then after an hour of wear, they were exhausted and disgusted and unable to think of any reason for it, and never wanted to feel that combination of headache and dry eyes and all the neck ache and everything that comes with it anymore. So Apple provides a 14-day money-back guarantee. You can take the headset back. Well, guess what happened at the Apple stores around the country this last week? Yep, long lines of people returning the Vision Pros. So I can't say this for sure. I'm not a prophet, but I have a sense that in a year or two, they will be still available probably, but only for particular commercial purposes, not for consumer use. That's my prediction. And I'm basing this in part on many other things I've seen. Do you remember about 15 years ago, you would go into the big box stores and the TV section of the Walmarts or wherever the electronics stores, the Best Buys, that sort of thing. And they would have 3D television sets, curved and fancy. And they were saying this is the TV set of the future, 3D, and it comes with a pair of glasses, and all these great classic movies are being remade in 3D, so you can sit at home with your gigantic television watching 3D movies. And everybody was told that was the future. Well, it wasn't the future. It turned out people don't really like wearing 3D glasses at home. It's a little ridiculous. Having an entire TV dedicated for reasons of 3D just seemed absurd, and they just don't want it. So these days, you pretty much can't find a 3D TV. So the future didn't happen. Well, how many other products are classified in the future that's never actually going to take hold? I mean, probably a lot. These days, you can't even buy a home appliance without it being smart, meaning that in order to control it, you have to hook it up to an app on your phone and press a button. Okay, that's very fancy, very nice, but what if you don't want to do that? What if you just want to turn on your dishwasher or turn on or turn off your washing machine? I mean, what is wrong with getting up and going over to a machine and punching a button, really, in the end? And I would say the same thing is true for light switches. Like, what? How come? So many bulbs in the store, they're pushing so hard. This light bulb is smart. Smart light bulb. So you buy it, and now you have to download an app and control it through your app. So you have to register, they get your data, and then some company that you don't even know about is controlling all your data and knows when your lights are going off and on, and what color they are, if they're dim, they're bright, or they're blue, or they're red, or they're orange, or they're pink. So, I mean, there's a massive privacy invasion element to this thing, too. And it doesn't make any sense. I mean, in the end, you just want a light on. There's nothing wrong with walking across the room and turning it on. And by the way, I would say the same thing is true for playing music home. Everybody wants these Google Homes and these Amazon products and all these other little home things that you can talk to. But the fact is, they're listening to you all the time. And just think about it logically. People say, it's not actually listening to you. Yes, it is listening to you, because it needs to find out when you want it to call it to attention. But it only comes to attention if you call it to attention. Yes, but it's having to listen to you all the time to see whether and to what extent you're calling it to attention. So yes, it's a listening device in your home. Once you realize that, you think, why am I doing this for? This is crazy. I mean, there's nothing wrong with standing up and punching a button. You can broadcast your music to a Bluetooth or whatever, run an app on a digital device if you want, but there's no particular reason to have a listening device in your home. And the same is true for many, many products that are now called smart. Everything these days is sold as smart technology. And how do we know this isn't just some wild frenzy? I suspect that it is, and that it's going to go away based on consumer preferences. If people can buy analog things, I predict that in the future they're going to buy them, or at least digital things that are not always connected to your cell phone or to some other digital device that you control through an app. I'm just fed up with it, and I just wonder how many others are too. So in this context, I want to tell a story, if you wouldn't mind, from my own personal life, and it's a little bit ridiculous, so you'll have to tolerate this. But there was this thing in the 1970s and the 1980s called a water bed. This is a bed filled with water. It was marketing genius. These companies came along and said, you have to have a water bed because, it's great for coupling, very comfortable, and it's orthopedically sound because it conforms to your body. Yeah, I guess water would do that. And it's more natural way to sleep, and it's the bed of the future. Now, in what sense a waterbed is natural is not entirely clear to me. I mean, when in human history have human beings actually slept on water? Like, when did that ever happen? I can't actually figure out when that was. But there's a sense that, water is more natural than springs or cotton or something like that. You know how these things are. So people went for it. And then the coupling Playboy element of the waterbed's going to make your life more exciting, came with it. And so people just sort of glommed on these waterbeds thinking that springs Traditional mattresses were a thing of the past, and they were all for sale everywhere. Now, the weird thing about this is I think I must have caught the tail end of this because I was, when I was a very young man, working in a department store doing maintenance, vacuuming floors, waxing floors, picking pins out of carpets, cleaning windows, that sort of thing. I love my crushing boxes, love my job. But then somebody came to me and said, listen, this job doesn't pay that well. You can make lots of money at the furniture store down the street. They pay on commission. So the more you sell, the more you get. And, like an idiot with visions of riches dancing in my head, I, as a however I was 16 or 17 years old or something, I went down the street and applied for a job at the furniture store. Well, I was not very good at selling furniture because I thought it was all junk anyway. And they kind of told me that it was junk, like the orientation told me that there's really no difference between this bed and that bed, this sofa, that sofa, this end table, that end table. It's just the brand, and you got to sell it based on that. Well, I was a little suspicious of this. I didn't really believe in the job, and it's very difficult to do a job you don't really believe in, actually. Well, I didn't really believe in it, but I tried it out anyway. I wasn't very good at sales, and they finally just got fed up, and they said, look, this guy's so bad at selling things. Let's put him in the mattress section because that's where you just can't go wrong. Anybody that comes in looking for a mattress, you're always going to sell a mattress no matter what. Get them on the bed, lie them down on the bed, and they'll take a load off their feet from shopping. They'll find it joyful and wonderful. They won't be able to remember what their mattress at home feels like, and they'll buy it. And you can always upsell them on a mattress. Oh, this one's $500. It's not that good. This one's $800. It's really good. But I really want a great mattress. Here's one for $1,200, or here's one for $2,000. And apparently, people always go for this. So that's what I was told. Well, it turns out I wasn't very good at selling mattresses either. I eventually left that job. But before I left, we had to deal with this waterbed craze. And so we sold a lot of waterbeds. And so people come in, and they were, obviously cheaper, although way too expensive for what really amounts to a plastic bag. But people bought a waterbed. Oh, okay. And it was up to me to go to their apartments or houses and install them. So I would walk in with a waterbed, put it in the waterbed frame. Oh, yeah, that's what cost the money, actually, was the waterbed frame. That's what was expensive. I put together the frame, put the waterbed in the waterbed frame, and then drag the hose from the garden through the window, plug it in, turn it on, put the tablets in to make sure it didn't collect mold or whatever, and fill it up, and then carry on casual conversation with the homeowner until the stupid waterbed was full, and then plug it up, detach the hose, plug it up, and put those back where I found it, and then leave. And that was my job. Well, it turned out that many of these customers, because we had, I think, similar to Apple now, we had a money-back guarantee. They would come back in a couple of weeks and walk in the store and say, this waterbed, it's not really working for me. It kind of makes me feel a little seasick. It's wavy everywhere. Every time I move, it's moving around. It's sloshy, and I'm not sleeping well. It's just terrible. So my boss said, when those people come in, do that, always exchange it for a new waterbed, but give them one, because we had new waterbeds come in. This time they had what they called bevels. Now, what were bevels? Well, bevels were silicone balls or drabs or units or something that would stick inside the waterbed to make it less wavy and sloshy. So we had waterbeds with one bevel, with two bevels, we had a 3-bevel waterbed, 4-bevel waterbed, and by the time you really wanted to get extreme on your bevels, we had a 5-bevel waterbed. Now, I can tell you, having taken these things to the house and installed them, by the time you get to 5 bevels, it was basically a bed. The water part just disappeared. Now, it was fascinating to me to see the way the customers reacted to this kind of thing, because they were certain they wanted a waterbed. They just didn't like the waves and the sloshiness and the feeling of sleeping on water. Now, why they didn't connect, I hate waterbeds, why they believed that they just needed to get a new waterbed with bevels in it, up to 5 bevels, I don't understand. It's something in human psychology that people don't want to admit that they're wrong about something, I guess. But anyway, we'd set these 5-bevel waterbeds, which were basically just beds, with a little bit of water in the middle of them. And, that carried the day. I don't know what happened after that because I left the company because I was so bad at my job. But the point is that at some uncertain date in the future, waterbeds disappeared from the market. I mean, when's the last time we ever heard about a waterbed? I mean, nobody really wants a waterbed, and we look back at it and think it's a joke, a little bit ridiculous, like leisure suits or platform shoes or some other, item from the 70s. The hot dogger or the sandwich maker from Ronco. There are a lot of products that we look back and say, I can't believe we went for that, but we did. Well, I looked it up on Amazon. It turns out you can still buy waterbeds. You can buy a waterbed for $50, no frame. So they're still around, but they're not a culturally relevant thing. So technology does, in fact, come and go. And you don't know when you're in the middle of a technological craze that it is, in fact, a technological craze that really is not amounting to anything, that is really just going to go away. So another one I would suggest to you is a complete ridiculous thing, is the vegan meat or the Impossible Burgers or all these meat replacement products, which if you look at them carefully, the ingredients, they're filled with chemicals and invariably involve a lot of carbohydrates and soy and beans and all kind of mixtures of weird stuff with a ton of flavorings to make it taste like meat and other things to give it the texture of meat, but it's not meat. Now, this became very popular. I'm going to say 5 years ago or something. It was all the rage. It was one of these things pushed by the Great Reset, the Bill Gateses of the world. That in the future, nobody will eat meat, or we're going to grow these things in labs and you're going to love it, or we're going to make fake meat out of other things. And you used to go to cocktail parties and say, oh, try this cheese. Well, it's okay. Haha. It's not actually cheese. It is made of bean curd. Oh. Why don't we just have cheese? Oh, no, can't do that because that's bad, because cheese comes from cows and cows are animals. And I don't know. I don't know the whole theory here. And our viewers who are into this kind of stuff, please don't judge me, but it's just, I'm not really up to it. But what I don't like is the idea that you're going to call, there's such a thing as a vegan sausage. Like, there's no vegan sausage. Sausage, I'm sorry, is made of pork product and other meat products. So you can make it out of chicken or out of lamb. We know what sausage is, but it's not beans wrapped up in a wrapper and called sausage. And this has been going on a very long time. I'm just now remembering when I was a kid, there was a big hysteria against eggs. There was this belief that eggs would filled with cholesterol and would kill you. And there was a big panic. And so there was fake eggs everywhere. In fact, a lot of our food is based on these kind of fake products. And for that matter, vegetable shortening, is in fact fake lard. And that began sometime during World War II.
Dependable, blendable Crisco.
Great buy, Jenny. Crisco blending, happy ending.
So this kind of thing goes way back. Some of it sticks. I think shortening is still around because lard is still considered to be terrible wrongly. But most of these little fads just come and go. So we're surrounded by these fads. The fake meat thing, when you go to the stores now, it gets actually difficult to find. And whenever there's a storm coming, you can watch. Whenever there's a storm coming in, you know how the people rush to the grocery store to grab as many items as possible? Look at the meat section. The Impossible Burgers and the fake meat and the vegan meat and all that stuff is the last thing to go. It's just sitting there on the shelf, unbought. And the stocks of the main companies that are making these things have tanked. Some of them have bottomed out. Many of the companies have gone out of business. It seems like it's not really a thing anymore. Now, I'd just like to do a quick foray into some of the history associated with this idea of infinite progress, because that's where it comes from. The idea that if it's new, it's improved, and it's always better than the other thing. Everything new is improved, and it's always something to replace that which we used before. It comes from an 18th century theory of historiography associated with what's called the Whig ideology, and in Britain, that's spelled W-H-I-G. Whig theory, sometimes associated with John Locke, but there are many, whole generations of English theorists and historians of that period that kind of told a story of history of the progressive unfolding of liberty and human rights and constitutional government. Kind of where like this, it began in despotism in primitive times when people are stupid and tribal, and then it went to absolutism, and then feudalism ended, and then we got monarchies, but they were restrained by parliaments, and we moved ever closer to a democratic model within that framework. We also got individual rights, and things just got better and better and better. And the belief in the 18th century, and this was pervasive all the way up until World War I, actually, was that every new period of history was better than the old period of history. So we could always look down on the past and always look forward to the future. That was a belief. It's the so-called Whig theory. Now you can apply this Whig theory not just to historiography or politics, but also to science. There's a widespread belief that whatever the latest study of science is, whatever's the latest thing in the journal, incorporates everything that was good from the past and dispenses with all the errors of the past and gives us a more perfect product. So you don't actually have to worry about the history of science in any field, whether it's physics or economics. You could just throw it all away. Learn whatever is going on right now, and you will thereby learn everything that really matters about that discipline, since it's impossible for human beings to leave aside valuable information from the past. That was the belief. I mean, that's the Whig theory of science. So I think there also must be a kind of Whig theory of technology, and it's got some certain plausibility. We weren't able to fly, then we were able to fly. We didn't have internal combustion, then we did have internal combustion. This internal combustion is going to be converted to electricity, which is coal, or even better, we get the electricity from the sun or the wind. Or you look back at the history of communication. First we had telegraph, then the telephone, and then we had the internet, and now we can call from our cell phones. Or the history of telecommunications, the same thing. We used to have a community phone, then we had individual phones at our houses that were attached to the wall, and then we eventually got them in our pocket, and now we can walk around with individuated technology. So there's a Whig theory of technology that posits that everything new is better than anything that came before. And what I'm here to tell you is that this Whig theory, although there's got a certain plausibility to it, and you can tell a story in which it always seems kind of true, is really gravely flawed. It's not the case that everything new is better than everything old. It's just not true. I mean, look at cathedral built in the 15th century in Spain. Can we do that now? Probably not. We probably don't have the skills. And I can tell you, there are some music that was written in the 16th century, 15th, 16th century, that I swear is more technically sophisticated than anything you would hear today, certainly on the radio, but it's true even within classical music. It's not always the case that the new incorporates the best of the old and dispenses with the bad. Sometimes we dispense with lots of great things from the past that we should have kept, and we rally around dumb things today that we should never have embraced in the first place. My top example from the world of science and medicine would be the COVID response, okay? Everybody knew in 2005, 2006, and even all the way up to the beginning of 2020 that you don't lock down whole populations in the event of a respiratory pandemic, because it creates more harm and doesn't do any good to solve the problem at hand. And the masks didn't work. That excessive sanitization of hands only leads to dry skin and actually cleans off good bacteria too. So these were things that were known, that distancing, is an implausible way to organize society, that travel restrictions don't work. We knew all this stuff. I mean, not just knew it, it was demonstrated again and again and again with every bit of empirical evidence we had from every bit of historical experience. We knew this. And then suddenly, in March 2020, a new theory replaced it, and we were going to defeat a respiratory pathogen through totalitarian controls on the human population. Utterly crazy. So we know, even from experience of our own times, that we don't always do the right thing this time as compared to the last time. Sometimes the past, we were much better at managing social life, political life, cultural life, and even little technologies at our help. So I'll leave you with that. I would encourage you to be critically minded, not always think that the new thing is the best thing. You could find yourself in a very strange situation, in a couple of years, getting sick of replacing all your smart products, which can't be fixed, with new and smarter products, and scouring eBay for an old dishwasher or old washing machine or some old light bulbs, because those actually work better. Just showing it out there for you to consider. This is Jeffrey Tucker. Always put freedom first.